My greetings to you all. Now, my role here is to explain what is death, what happens when a person dies, whether young, middle-aged, old, it doesn't really matter. What happens when a person dies? Now, it is important for us to understand what happens when an individual dies for two reasons. One is for us to overcome the grief of the loss of a person. Secondly, to overcome the fear of death of ourselves. In fact, fear of death is one of the 6 fears that we go through. The fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of illness, the fear of loss of a loved one, and fear of death, or fear of old age, and of course, fear of death. So these are the 6 fears that people go through, and fear of death is one of the strongest. So we need to understand the dynamics of birth and death to overcome the grief of losing a loved one, and of course, to overcome the fear of death. Now, when we use the word death, it is a frightening word. Now, death means birth. Birth means death. So, birth and death simply means a process of change, because without death, there cannot be birth. Without birth, there cannot be death. In the process of birth and death, the entire phenomena of change happens in the world. Without that, without the process of birth and death, there is no change. Night dies, giving birth to morning. Morning dies, giving birth to noon. Noon dies, giving birth to afternoon. Afternoon dies, giving birth to evening. Evening dies, giving birth to night. In the process of birth and death, the day is maintained. Sunday dies, giving birth to Monday. Monday dies, giving birth to Tuesday. Tuesday dies, giving birth to Wednesday, so on and so forth. In the process of birth and death, a week is maintained. When a baby is born, when a child is born, childhood dies, giving birth to boyhood. Boyhood dies, giving birth to youthhood. Youthhood dies, giving birth to manhood. Manhood dies, giving birth to old age. In the process of birth and death, our lifespan is maintained. When I break a stick into 2, if I were to ask you, what did I do? One set of people will tell me, you have broke the stick into 2. Another set of people will say, you have created 2. Both are right. In the process of breaking, I've created 2. The seed has to perish for the sapling to emerge into a plant and into a tree. Egg has to perish for the chicken to emerge. In the process of birth, in this process of destruction, creation happens. And so change is the nature of life. So birth and death simply means a process of change. But we have grief, we have fear, so we need to understand that. In fact, when we die, when each one of us die, the only person who's not affected by, or the only person who's not hurt by your death is yourself. Everybody else is the one who grieves. But we all go through the fear of what happens when I die. In fact, let me tell you this. The truth is that one day, each one of us will die. That is the best thing that can ever happen to us. One day. Because if we were to live on in this old age, dilapidated body, it can be the worst thing that can ever happen. So what we need to understand here is that death is not the end of life as much as birth is not the beginning of life. Get that very clear. That is, death is not the end of life as much as birth is not the beginning of life. Our life doesn't begin when we are born, and our life doesn't end when we die. Death is a process of renewal of life. Death is a process of recycling of our life. It is a process of change, renewal, and recycling. So when we understand that it is a process of renewal, it is a process of promotion, it is a process of growth. When we really understand and digest that fact, a great sense of serenity and relief will dawn on us. It is a promotion. Just as when a child is promoted from primary school to secondary school, philosophically speaking, I would say he is dead in the primary school and he is born in the secondary school. It is a process of promotion. Sometime it happened when the children are very young, let's say when they are promoted from grade 1 to grade 2, and let's say for some reason they have to change school in the process of promotion. From one school, they have to go to a totally different school. And obviously in the new school, in the new grade 1 to grade 2, it is the new friends, new environment, new teachers. And the child would say, Mommy, I want to go back to the same old school, old friends, old class. Why does the child say that? Because the child doesn't understand moving to grade 1 to 2 is a promotion. Similarly, when we die, it is a process of promotion, it is a process of growth, it is a process of evolution. It is a process of graduation. But then why do we feel sorrow? Why do we feel the anxiety? Why do we feel the fear and the pain? Simply because our ignorance about death. Because of our lack of understanding. In fact, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 22nd verse, Bhagavan Krishna talks about what exactly is the process of death. It's one of the oft quoted verses. It says, Vasamsi jirnani yadha vihaya navani grinnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Let me chant it the way it is chanted. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. The translation reads, just as a man casting off worn out garments puts on a new one, so the embodied casting off the worn out bodies enters new ones. Just as a man casting off worn out garments put on new ones, so the embodied casting of worn out bodies enters new one. So death is simply, it's like changing the clothes. All right, I'll explain to the dynamics of it. When our clothes are old or worn out, it is dirty, we take off the clothes and put on a new one. In the same way, our soul, our causal body and the subtle body changes the physical body and gets into a new one. Let me use an analogy. to explain this dynamics. And that is, you'll understand a computer. Not everybody may be understanding the internal dynamics of a computer. So a computer has 4 parts. All right. First of all, there is the chassis or the box, the cabinet of the computer. And inside the cabinet or the chassis of the computer, you have the motherboard and the software. And then apart from the motherboard with the software, you have the hard drive. All right. So you have the chassis, the box, then you have the motherboard and the software, and then you have the hard drive. Let us say the chassis, the box of the computer is rusted or it's broken for some reason. The box is damaged, it is rusted, it is damaged, but the computer is good. The software is good, the hard drive is good, the motherboard, everything is good. Then what do? We discard the chassis, we discard the box and take out the motherboard and the software and the hard drive and install this motherboard, software and hard drive into a new box. And the computer is working perfect. Everything that is happening in the computer is intact. Very similar phenomena happens when we die. So what happens is, you and just as the computer has got the cabinet, the box, the hard drive and the software and the the motherboard, you and me also have got 4 aspects. All right. What is that? First of all, our physical body. It is called, technically it is called gross body. All right. Beyond the physical body or the gross body, you have the subtle body and the causal body. Subtle body is your thoughts, desires, and emotions, which is your feelings, desires, love, hatred. All those thoughts and emotions are called subtle body. Beyond the subtle body is the causal body, which is your subconscious mind, all the vasanas or karmas, the recollections of or the storehouse of all your past experiences are in the causal body. So the gross body or the physical body is like the box, the cabinet, the chassis of the computer. Your motherboard and software is your subtle body, which is your thoughts, desires, and emotion, which is basically constituted of your mind, intellect, and the ego. That is your subtle body, which is your software with a motherboard. And then your hard drive is the causal body. Remember, hard drive is the storage of all the data of the computer. Similarly, your causal body is the storehouse of all the experiences that you've gone through in the past. So when we die, what happens? We know what happens to our physical body. The physical body is cremated or buried. All right. The physical body is cremated, and 68% of our body is water. And then you have the carbohydrate, then you have many other minerals, etc. Rest of the 32% put together is your carbohydrate, mineral, and all those, right? So when the body is cremated, the extreme heat in the crematorium converts our body into gas, and the remnants of ash is exactly the same weight as the time that you are born as a baby. So weight of the newborn baby, and when we are cremated, the remnants of the ash is exactly the same. So when we are born and when we die after cremation, our weight is exactly the same. Rest of them goes back. Our space, air, fire, water, and all those 5 elements goes back to nature. So the physical body or the gross body is cremated. Now, when we say when we die, our soul leaves the body. All right. Now, when you say soul leaves the body, we need to understand what exactly is the meaning of the word soul. Some people take the word soul to mean your subtle body and the causal body, that is your motherboard with the software and the hard drive, that leaves the body. Yes, it does leave the body. It does. They do leave the body. But if you use the word soul to mean the Atman, the God principle, the divinity, the core of our personality is the self, the Atman, that doesn't leave. Because divinity is all pervading. It is everywhere. The divinity, the God principle within you, in me, and all of us are one and the same, just as the electricity is the same in all electrical gadgets. When you change the light bulb, when the light bulb is fused, you take off the spoiled bulb and put on a new one. The electricity is still there. Similarly, the divinity, the Atman, the God principle remain the same. So what leaves the body at the time of death is our subtle body and the causal body leaves this body into a new one. So that is what we call the death of this body and the birth of the new one. All right. So when our causal body and the subtle body leaves the body, it is exactly the same way as you are getting rid of the old clothes and put on a new one, or you're moving from grade 1 to grade 2, or moving from primary school to secondary school. It is a process of growth, process of evolution. So in actual fact, when you look at that person's point of view, you know, the problem today is that all of us look at the loss of our loved one, somebody who dies. We always look at from our point of view, oh, we lost the person. That is why we are going through grief. We are not supposed to look at a person's death only from our point of view. Our father died, or our mother died, or our brother, sister, our brother or sister or a child or whoever. We need to look at from that person's point of view, the person who passed away. When you look at death from that person's point of view, you understand that death is a promotion, it's an evolution, it is a process of growth. But what we do is we always look at death from our point of view and we say, we lost the person. But look at that person's point of view, it is a promotion, it is a growth, it is an evolution. I'll explain to you how. How do we say that the death is a promotion? See, when do we die? At what circumstances a person dies? When our physical body and the environment is no more conducive, it is no more suitable to express our desires, our karma. The causal body and the subtle body demands a change. I repeat, when our physical body and the environment that we are in is no more conducive, it is no more suitable to express our karma, our desires, the subtle body or the soul, as you would call it, choose to leave the body only to find a new body. So what we need to understand, that the person who passed on, his physical body and the environment is no more suitable. So in the new environment, the new circumstances, his or her environment is best suited for the expression of his or her karma. It is something like this. Supposing you go to a shopping mall, you have a list of things to buy, all right? Now, the number of desires that you have. Your first desire is to buy a jewelry for your spouse, or for your wife or your child, or whoever it is, all right? Now, the desire to buy a jewelry will take you to a jewelry shop. And you'll remain in the jewelry shop until your desire for jewelry is fulfilled, or that shop cannot fulfill your desire. The type of jewelry that you want cannot be found in that jewelry shop. So you decide to leave the jewelry shop. All right. The next desire is to buy a shoe. The desire to buy a shoe cannot be fulfilled in the jewelry shop. So since that environment is not suitable, that is, jewelry shop cannot fulfill your desire to buy a shoe, Your desire will drive your body from jewelry shop to a shoe shop. You will go to the shoe shop driven by your desire. You will remain in the shoe shop until your desire for shoe is fulfilled. You'll try different colors and shapes and designs and sizes. And once your desire for shoe is fulfilled, next desire is to buy a watch. Assuming that the watch cannot be purchased from the shoe shop. All right. Since the shoe shop is not suitable to fulfill your desire for watch, you leave the shoe shop, your desire will drive your body from shoe shop to watch shop. All right. So it is the desire for jewelry, desire for shoe, desire for watch takes you from one shop to the other. Similarly, our soul drives this body from one experience to the other in this life. Similarly, it takes you to the next life, the new life. So it is death of this body and the birth of the new one. So when the person is newborn, all right, and that is for certain, there are many corroboratory evidences almost proving to the point that there has to be rebirth, there has to be a new environment, all right. Since there is new birth, we got to take solace in the fact that the person is, it is a promotion, death is a renewal of life, it is a process of evolution, it is a process of recycle, all right. So when you understand that, two things will happen, as I mentioned to you. You will overcome the grief of losing a loved one. Number two, you will also overcome the fear of death, because grief and fear are the two things that is actually gripping the world today, especially in South Africa. A lot of people go through that grief and the fear. So it is important for us to understand what exactly happens at the time of death. Now, why do we go through grief? It is only because of our attachment to the person. It is our attachment to that person that makes us experience the grief, because we look at the loss of that person from our point of view. We are not supposed to look at the loss of the person or death of the person from our point of view and say, I lost a child, or I lost a brother, or I lost a father or a mother or a brother or sister, whatever it is. Look at that from that person's point of view. That person has exhausted his or her karma in this environment, in this life, in this body is no more suitable, and he or she moves on to the next environment that is the most suitable, most conducive, most appropriate environment for that person to express his or her karma. Therefore, for that person, death is a promotion, death is an evolution, death is a renewal of life. It is a blessing for that person. It is not a challenge. So take solace in that fact. Think about it. Understand it, and you will find the more this understanding dawn on you, the more you will find relief when there is a death. The more you are able to overcome the fear, the more you will understand that death is a growth, promotion, and evolution.